So why are we homesteading and homeschooling?
Every change has a reason. Baby, let it come to you.
Hey guys, it is Casey with Accidental Homeschoolers. It's great to see you again. If you are new, welcome. I'm so excited to have you. So today I just wanted to talk about why are we homesteading and homeschooling? Like I don't have enough to do, right? Some of you are probably thinking, gosh, like homeschooling is so much work. How do you have time for anything else? Well, now our homeschool looks very different now that we're homesteading. We don't get up and do school right away. We have to get up and take care of chickens and the gardens, and especially before it gets hot, because where we are, it is so hot, especially right now in April. We also have really bad weather in April, so there's tons and tons of rain, so having to work around that. You know, there's a lot that has to get done every day, but it's nicer to get up and get it done in the morning. And I kind of feel like it wakes everybody up a little bit. So by the time we hit the books, everybody seems to be a little more focused. Now, I never do so much that we can't focus on school, but so far so good. It's been working. So why are we doing all of this? You know, this is kind of a hard video because there are a lot of things that I'm not sure you're allowed to say, or you're supposed to say or not supposed to say. So we'll see what happens to this video. But for one, I wanted my children to grow up the way that I did. We wanted a more simple life. I don't want to be working for a mortgage, to pay a mortgage. I don't want to be house poor. I don't like the idea of that. My house itself is not important to me. Character is very important to me. You know, growing up, I learned how to work. I know I whined a lot. I know my mom had to like kick my butt a lot. And I didn't have any siblings, so it was just me. So, you know, we weren't splitting the work. So, you know, but looking back now as an adult, it was the most amazing way to grow up because I learned how to think. I learned how to work. I learned how to work smarter, not harder. This is funny because you think this would be common sense. When I was a kid, I asked someone to help me in the barn. And I said, hey, can you fill up the water buckets? Well, they brought all the water buckets outside the barn, filled them up, and then was like, oh, I have to drag all these back in full of water. Which you would think that you would just bring the hose in, but it didn't dawn on them to do that. And I thought, huh. So it's just a different way of thinking and learning. And sometimes, you know, I had to learn the hard way. I had to do it the hard way, and it was miserable. And then, you know, I didn't do that again. And I learned a lesson, and it always stuck with me. So now I'm teaching my son that, which has been pretty interesting because I've had to, normally I would say, hey, if you do it this way, you'll save yourself so much time and aggravation. Well, now he kind of looks at me like, I know, Mom, and I just have to stop because I know what's going to happen. He's going to do it the hard way. It's going to be miserable, and it's going to take 3 times as long. And I'm going to have to watch this process. But in that process, he learned how to do it again. And from then on, he figured stuff out. You know, we just want a more simple life. You know, we downsized when we left where we were to go to the Southwest. I'm not concerned about downsizing because now we're living in a house technically even smaller than that. So really, if you think about it, what's wrong with what you have? Are you afraid that people are going to look down upon you like, oh, they don't have a lot of money? Who cares how much money we have? Who cares if we're living below our means or if you're living, I mean, I don't think you should live above your means, but you know, who cares? Who cares if your house isn't Pinterest perfect? Who cares if, you know, all your pictures aren't Instagram worthy or whatever? Like, what does it matter? It doesn't. What matters is that when your children are adults, what kind of adults are they going to be? And let's face it, if you're already homeschooling, you know why you're homeschooling. You know, there's a reason you're not sending your kids to public school, and that's because you want them to be different. You want them to have different character. Maybe you want them to know God more, where you can incorporate it into school every single day. You know, there's so many things that you're doing. Maybe you don't want them influenced by certain type of people. Here's an example. We actually went somewhere, and there were some other kids in this activity, and they looked about to be my son's age. It's the back door camera. They looked to be about my son's age, and I thought, great, he'll have somebody to play with while we're doing what we're doing. And those kids were mean to him. And I asked him, I said, how old were they? And they were like 7. He's 9. And I was like, really? Because they were acting like they were 15. I mean, they were talking about things that, for one, I don't even know about. But things that, you know, a 7-year-old or a 9-year-old doesn't need to know about or doesn't need to talk about. And I just thought, oh. So for him, that was a really hard lesson because he just wanted to play with somebody. And he wasn't finding anyone that was like-minded, which really sucks. But, you know, that's how it is. I grew up somewhat sheltered. I did go to public school. But I mean, in a way, I was kind of homeschooled with the way that I am today. And there's a lot of pop culture references I don't understand. Is it important? No. Who cares? I don't need to know who wore what at the Golden Globes or what was on whatever TV. Like, does that really matter in the long run? I don't think so. Is that adding to his character? No. So we wanted to have a more simple life. We wanted to focus on those things that were really important and not just, you know, follow society, because let's face it, society is not going down a very good path right now, is it? I mean, can I get a like for that one? Because I really don't think that it is. Also, with all the things that are going on, I wanted more stability. I wanted more self-sufficiency for my family. I have always known how to do several like old world skills that people would, you know, oh, my grandma did that. I've always known how to do that, a lot of that stuff, but I'm also learning even more, and I'm putting it to use every single day because for one, it makes us feel good. You know, for one, it makes me feel good. I want, you know, I want my kids to dig in the dirt. I want my kids to, you know, play with chickens. And I still wish we had horses left, but, you know, there's so many things that I want for them. Health-wise, mental health is so much better for everybody in my family. You know, we're not in a neighborhood, and I'm not knocking neighborhoods, but I didn't grow up in one. And so for me, it feels very claustrophobic. My kids get to run everywhere. We're very close. Like our houses, our house and my parents' house is very close. Now, for some of you, you're probably like, oh, that's terrible. But in our case, it's great because I can just go, you know, open up the door and go, hey, go to grandma's. Like, you're driving me crazy. Or, hey, mom, I need help. And she just walks over. So that's really, really, really nice. Plus, my parents weren't close enough to see the kids, you know, very much. I mean, they drove up, you know, every couple of months and would stay for a few days, you know, as much as they could. They didn't get to be there a lot. So, you know, that's been great for them. I want to grow our own food. I want to know where my food comes from. If you've ever had a garden or you've ever grown your own food, it tastes much better because it's not grown in I can't speak today, in an industrial way where things are picked early. They're not picked at, you know, their most ripe or when you would pick it in your garden to eat, you know. And I'm not a fan of tomatoes, but to quote somebody else, grocery store tomatoes taste like disappointment. And growing my own, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot. Like, they're not my favorite, but they do taste so much better. But we're doing lots of things for food preservation, canning, dehydrating. I would love to freeze dry, but that's not a priority right now. Plus, that's kind of expensive. I'm also learning alternative medicine, you know, different things to help. I'm not knocking healthcare system and regular allopathic medicine because I can't do surgery. You know, I don't want to stitch somebody up. I don't have antibiotics growing in my backyard, but there are other ways of taking care of certain things, and I want to know as much as I can. It's also led me down the road of understanding, all of our ailments and disorders and everything. So I have learned a lot. I've even started, a medicinal herb garden. Some of that stuff, it takes a couple years before you can harvest, but hey, you got to start at some point. Oh, we started an orchard. So yeah, that's going to take like 5 to 8 years before we have any food from it. But I mean, you have to start somewhere. For us, it was a way of security, for more self-sufficiency, for a healthier way of life, for a better way to raise our kids, teaching them many life skills. I mean, think about it. What, 100 years ago, probably even less than 100 years ago, what did our grandparents do? I was talking to somebody the other day and they're like, oh yeah, my grandma used to grow a specific green bean and she'd can them every year. Or, you remember sitting on the porch and snapping beans with your grandma, your great grandma. Or somebody else was telling me their grandmother taught them about all the different medicinal plants that were around them that you could forage for yourself. Just so many things. You used to have root cellars and you used to like put stuff away, and every household had a kitchen garden. And, we've gotten so far away from that. And now here we are as a society, and it's like, oh, hey, if everything stops running, boats don't come in, like they're literally saying that the United States, we'd be out of food in 3 months. Did you know that we are the biggest importers of food? When did that change? We used to be the breadbasket of the world. We used to feed the world, remember? And now we're the biggest importers of food? What? I read something the other day that said that we're going to be planting 20 million less acres of food this year, on top of the fields that are supposed to go fallow. And I thought, well, if you keep talking like food shortage, why aren't we doing something about it? Why aren't we encouraging people to, plant a garden? Even if you live in an apartment, don't you have a balcony or a window in your kitchen? Goodness, you can get grow lights and you can have like a fold up table and you can hang them underneath the table and you can grow stuff in your house. Like even a little bit. What happened to the victory garden? I also read another statistic that said during World War II in the United States that 40% of the food grown in the US was grown in victory gardens in people's yards. Like what happened to that? It's crazy to think how far we've come. Like, yes, we have modernized and we've come to a great place as society, but now we're so reliant on electricity and refrigerators and, our grocery store being stocked. How many of you are seeing shortages? And, there's just so many things. There's not enough truck drivers. Like I needed to feel like I was more in control of my life for my family. Yes, there are so many benefits that we're getting from it. But right now, I kind of feel like, this is something that we need. Plus, it's becoming homeschool activities. It's been a lot of fun, like talking about like, bags of garden soil, what's 1 cubic foot? What does that mean? How many are you going to need for this raised bed? How many broccoli plants do you think that we need? If a head of broccoli, when my husband's here, we do like 2 or 3 heads of broccoli per meal, So how many plants are we going to need? And starting to, figure that out and, talking about those things and, how to seed save, how to can, talking about pressure canning versus water bath canning and all that stuff. I don't say any of this to scare anyone or fearmonger or anything like that, but I do believe that God, has called us to, He's given us these skills to take care of ourselves to a certain extent, and if you can, great. I also, in doing this, we are doing more just because we're a natural, like, woo, we go big. But I also know that I'm going to take care of other people around me. I'm going to take care of other family and other friends and, You know, I don't want to tell you how many chickens we have, but you know, we're not going to be able to eat all of those eggs ourselves. So, you know, I do plan on helping those around me. And if you have the ability to do that, I think that's wonderful and I think that's great. I think you should. If you don't, get to know somebody who can and help them out a little bit. I'd like some help. I could do so much more with help. But anyway, and in my previous video, I talked about someone had said, you know, when you start homeschooling, it leads you down the road of all kinds of alternative things. And this is just another alternative, and I love it. And learning old things has been so much fun. We actually have been doing the living off the land unit study by Gather Around Homeschool, which I will do a review on next and tell you how I feel about that. But anyway, if you like this video, please hit the like button. If you're not already subscribed, please do, and hit the little bell so you know that when I do upload stuff, you are notified. And I would love to hear from you. Please comment below, you know, what are you doing? Do you feel the same? Do you not feel the same? I'm really curious about how other people feel. But anyway, I hope you have a great day. Bye.
Every change